Hello, welcome back to the channel. Sorry everyone, excuse me, sorry everyone for the delay. The last few weeks have been a little bit hectic, but I'm back for my third video in the Web Development Fundamentals NuCamp Bootcamp review series. Okay, I'll try to keep this one short. I know I've said that in the past, but this time I'll actually try to do that. But anyway, this week, week 3, we're going to be doing a review over the coursework. This week was an introduction to JavaScript. Before we begin, this was by far the hardest week of any week. It was the most information. The syntax of the language, the way it was written, was quite a bit different from anything we've learned so far. And yeah, just the amount of information that was given to you was a lot. The fastest pace that the course has gone so far. It was just, yeah, in general, the toughest week. So if you're going to be enrolling in the fundamentals course, or if you're already in the fundamentals course, be prepared for week 3. It's going to be the toughest. You're going to need to put, in my opinion, the most time studying that you have thus far in the course into this week, because they're going to be throwing a lot at you. But anyway, not to make this too long, I'm going to jump right into an overview of kind of each module that they provide for you this week, and go over what, give you in a rough form what you'll be learning. So at the beginning of the week, they give you a brief history of JavaScript. They kind of give you an overview of what it's used for. You get somewhat of an idea of its capabilities, but it's, a very quick, brief introduction. And right off the bat, in the very first module, you have an exercise at the end. That's another thing about this week. There are definitely more little hands-on exercises than in the previous 2 weeks, which is a good thing. Because like I said, they're throwing a lot of information at you. So study, do the exercises. Also, at the end of each module, they have these little sections called with additional resources. So they'll basically go over a topic in the module, and then at the end they'll have additional websites that you can go to, that you can visit, and get more information that goes a little bit deeper into the topics discussed. I would highly recommend that you go and look at as many of these additional resources that you can, that you have time to, because the information that is coming your way this week is going to be heavy. You're most likely not going to grasp everything, but the more that you can set eyes upon the information, the more you're going to be able to retain. So I would say go over all of the lessons and modules from NuCamp, but as well go over every additional resource that is given at the end of every lesson. That's going to help a lot. But anyway, so the first module, a brief introduction, and then you have a little hello world kind of JavaScript exercise. After that, they go into the basics for the second module. They're going to go over JavaScript variables, how to create variables, different ways to assign them. And they're also going to introduce functions to you. So this is where things start to get a little heavy, in my opinion, or at least for me. The variables, creating those, they weren't too difficult to grasp your mind around, but the functions is really where you get a lot of the power in JavaScript to carry out a lot of different tasks. But this is where things start to get very heavy. I won't go into too much detail about what functions are, what they do, but just be prepared. This is when the stuff hits the fan, so to speak, if you're new to coding. But anyway, so the second module, you get an introduction to variables, how to create them, what they are. and then they also introduce you to functions. And at the end of that module, you have 3 exercises to complete. So like I said, it's going to be information heavy, but you're also going to get a lot of hands-on exercises this week, more than in the previous 2 weeks. So that is a good thing. The third module is they introduce you to, they call it making decisions, but they introduce you to if statements. I won't get into what if statements are, and to be honest, I have, after going through the week, I only have a very basic knowledge, so I'm not even going to try to attempt to explain what they are, all the different ways that they can be used. But let's just say, after being introduced to functions and then if statements thrown on top of that, your mind can really start to spin, especially if you've never seen this information before, or you've never been introduced to these concepts before this class. But anyway, they introduce you to if statements, and 2 more sections on operators. I won't go into those. But after that, you have another exercise. Trust me, your head will really be hurting by now. And the following module, they introduce you to what is called loops. So loops, yeah, this is really where things just kind of zipped over my head. You will really be wanting to pull your hair out if you have any. And yeah, once again, I won't go into what loops are, because I've just learned what they are, and 2, I don't have the the understanding to explain to you. But yeah, just know that it's going to be intensive. And honestly, I would say, if you're going into this week, because there is so much information, it's so rich, and there's just going to be so much coming at you, I would highly suggest you look at these concepts before the week even starts. So I would go over, in JavaScript, I would look up variables, functions. Well, 1, variables, how to create them, what they are. 2, functions, what they are, how to create them in different ways. 3, if statements. And then 4, loops. So so my background, I'm an engineer. So the functions, I guess if you do have a lot of background in math, functions will not be too hard for you to grasp. But so they weren't too difficult for me to get a basic understanding of. But if you're I guess don't have a lot of exposure to higher levels of math, they may be a little bit harder for you to grasp. Excuse me. But I would say, so if you don't have an extensive background in math, definitely take the time to look at functions. If you have a lot of upper level math coursework in your background, maybe you don't need to spend as much time on functions, or most likely you'll get them, or you'll get the basic understanding of them pretty quickly. But the if statements and the loops, especially if you've never been like me, you don't have any kind of coding background, they're gonna throw you off a little bit. So I would definitely invest a lot of time for everyone in the if statements and the loops. And if you don't have a lot of math in your background, definitely spend some more time on variables and functions before the if statements and loops. So in other words, I won't say extensive studying before week 3, but at least have an idea of what the concepts are, maybe what they're capable of, the different things you'll be learning about. And once again, those are variables, functions, if statements, and loops. So I would definitely take a look at those 4 things before starting week 3 if you are completely new like I was to JavaScript. So where were we? The loops module, so you go over that. And then the very last module, it's called handling data. And they'll basically, I think the main takeaway was that they introduce you to what is called arrays, ARRAYS. My basic way of explaining what an array is basically kind of like a list. So it's basically teaching you how to create a list in JavaScript and how to manipulate the list. So yeah, once again, I only have a very basic knowledge, so I won't try to explain too much and confuse you and tell you the wrong kind of thing. But the last module is basically arrays, different ways to manipulate them and change them around and do different things. But anyway, after that, you're going to go into the weekly challenge questions. I believe I've explained at the end of every week. After all the lessons, you'll have questions to go through. They'll give you a list. You can choose, I think the list is usually like 10 to 12 questions or something like that. You have to go through and pick 3 and then answer them and post them to the little app. I forget what it's called. But yeah, that's at the end of every week. So you'll do that. And then after the challenge questions, after you submit all your answers, then you will take the week 3 quiz. And I will say this was the first week where I actually failed the quiz initially. So I had to go back and retake it, and I failed it pretty bad in the beginning. So, and the first 2 weeks, I completely blew the quizzes out of the water first try. I think I got a 90% and up. 100 the first week, then a 90 the second week. The third week was, let's just say I was not even at 50%. So I had to go back. Yeah, the coursework was that extensive. And to put it, like I even studied more this week than I have the previous 2 weeks, and I still did that bad on the quiz. So like I said, just be prepared. There's going to be a lot of info coming at you. It's going to be a tough week. A lot of new information, but you're going to learn a lot of new cool stuff. And the quiz is going to like really expose what you really know and what you think you know and what you, I guess, don't know. So yeah, the quiz is tough, but you'll get through it. After that, the workshop was just like the other workshops. They go through, or the instructor goes through the lesson, all the lessons for the week, kind of breaks them down into a little more detail, answers any specific questions anybody in the group may have. And then after that, you start on the assignment. And the assignment this week, man, it was just like the lessons, it was the hardest assignment to date. This was the first one, actually, I did not finish within the 4-hour workshop. I had to continue working on it afterwards, and I didn't get it turned in until late afternoon on Sunday. So yeah, be prepared. Yeah, this is going to be a tough one. But in the end, it is kind of like I won't say a culmination of everything you learned, but JavaScript is kind of, it kind of wraps everything up, and how to explain this? It really gives power to your website. It allows you to do certain things. Like I said, I'm just learning about it, and I only know the basics, so my way of explaining it is not going to be the greatest, but yeah, the best way I can put it is it gives power to your website. It allows you to do certain things, certain functions. It allows you to take the HTML and the CSS and I don't know, do certain things with it. If you are not sure what JavaScript is, like I said, definitely go in, do a little bit of research. I won't say necessarily you would have to necessarily do hardcore studying before, but I would say you would at least want to familiarize yourself with the concepts. And the concepts, again, would be the variables, the functions, if statements, and loops. Definitely familiarize yourself with that, because if you're coming in with a completely blank slate like I was and like some of the other students, you're going to have a very rough time. But at the end of the week, the project was pretty cool. I won't spoil what it was, but you kind of start to see what you're capable of after you know the basics of all three of these languages. You, like I said in the last video, you're not going to be a whiz. You're not going to be able to, most likely, not going to be able to start from a blank slate and type out your code and make an awesome website. But you're going to have theoretical knowledge, like a very good base. Like now, I can go on a site, I can look at code, and I have an idea of what is actually going on. Like I said, I can't go back and do that from a blank slate, but I can look at someone else's code and I can actually follow along and understand what is going on. So that is pretty cool. And like I said, the assignment for the week is pretty cool too. Like once you're done, you see what you've created, you see the language and how it's formatted to do what you do within the assignment. It kind of starts to click on how some of these websites work and how they function in a basic sense. So overall for the week, like I said, very, very tough week. Most information that's going to be thrown at you, you're going to have to put in the most time and that you put in so far, but it's going to be worth it. Like I said, if you can, do a little bit of studying or a little bit of prep, just familiarize yourself with some of the JavaScript concepts if you can before the week starts. But yeah, overall, tough week, but very good week. You learned a lot of cool stuff and good information. But yeah, a good week, but just prepare yourself. It's going to be tough. That's it for video 3. Stay tuned for video 4, the recap of week 4, and that will, I believe, be the final video in the Web Development Fundamentals course. But anyway, thank you for checking out video 3 and stay tuned for video 4. Peace.